Here are Grandma's 40 cross-stitch hacks and tips that you wish you knew sooner. Use the 3 and 3 out method. Grandma swore by the 3 and 3 out rule to keep threads tidy and tension even. This method means leaving 3 inches of thread at the start and end of each stitch run, which prevents tangles and makes securing easier later. Instead of knotting, tuck the tails under nearby stitches as you go. This keeps the back of your work neat and reduces bulk. It's especially helpful when working on dense patterns or with multiple colors. Try threading the tail back through 3 existing stitches for extra hold before snipping. Use a thread conditioner for smoother handling. Always plant needles in the same spot. Did you know that planting your needle consistently in the same fabric hole can vastly improve the look of your cross stitch? Whether entering from the front or back, always follow the same entry and exit path for each stitch. This creates even tension, aligned crosses, and a clean surface with fewer puckers. Inconsistency leads to uneven stitches and confusion when you reference your pattern. Sticking to a rhythm also builds muscle memory. If you're working on large patterns, use a gridded fabric to stay organized. Check under your hoop occasionally to avoid hidden tangles and loops. Separate floss strands before stitching. Grandma's favorite trick for smoother stitches was separating each strand of embroidery floss before threading. Standard floss contains 6 strands twisted together, and pulling them apart reduces snagging and produces fuller, neater crosses. The difference in stitch appearance is instantly noticeable, less bunching, more definition. Store separated strands loosely coiled to avoid kinks. Fluff them between your fingers before use for added softness. For multicolor blends, combine single strands from different skeins for a subtle gradient effect in your work. Loosen knots gently with needle. Knots happen especially when floss twists or loops unexpectedly. When they do, avoid pulling hard, which tightens the knot further. Instead, gently loosen the knot using the tip of your embroidery needle or a blunt tapestry needle. Wiggle into the center of the tangle and lift outward slowly. This minimizes damage and saves your floss. For stubborn knots, apply a drop of water to relax the fibers before working them out. Regularly letting your thread dangle as you stitch helps reduce twisting in the first place. Thread shorter lengths to prevent looping that leads to knots. Mark stitches with water-soluble pen. Planning your design is easier when you mark guidelines with a water-soluble pen. These pens let you grid your fabric, outline tricky shapes, or mark color changes directly on the cloth. Once your stitching is done, a simple rinse or damp cloth removes all traces. Make sure the pen is embroidery safe and test on a scrap before applying to your actual project. This hack saves time and keeps you aligned with your pattern. Don't iron the fabric before washing, as heat may set the marks permanently. Use a light touch to avoid bleeding into stitches. Store leftover thread in bauble. Keeping extra thread organized can be as simple as repurposing clear holiday baubles. Slide unused floss strands or short leftovers inside to keep them visible and tangle-free. These transparent ornaments not only serve as creative storage, but also let you see colors at a glance. Label each bauble with a number or color family using a permanent marker or sticker. Hang or group them in a shallow basket. This keeps thread dust-free and ready for future use. Add a desiccant pack inside to prevent moisture from affecting delicate fibers during long-term storage. Use backlight for black Aida. Stitching on black or dark Aida cloth can strain your eyes quickly. Place a white pillowcase or light box beneath your fabric to make the holes more visible. The backlight highlights the weave structure, making it easier to count and insert your needle precisely. This reduces eye fatigue and helps you avoid mistakes on complex patterns. Even a tablet screen set to white works in a pinch. Secure your fabric in a hoop and position your lighting below. Always combine with strong overhead lighting for best results. Try this when stitching with dark navy, charcoal, or deep forest green too. Apply thread conditioner for smooth stitch. Thread conditioner can make floss glide more easily through fabric, cutting down on knots and frays. Apply a small swipe of conditioner like beeswax or a commercial product before threading the needle. Grandma always kept a little tin of her favorite wax in her stitching basket for this purpose. Smoothing the thread reduces tangles and protects fibers from shredding, especially on long runs. This is especially helpful for metallic or specialty threads that resist cooperation. Don't oversaturate. A little goes a long way. Wipe excess off before stitching to avoid residue on delicate or light fabrics. Clip hoop distorted areas with cling film. When hoop tension leaves visible creases in your fabric, you can flatten the area with cling film and gentle pressure. Lay the fabric flat, then stretch plastic wrap tightly across the section, anchoring it in place with masking tape. This creates light tension to smooth minor distortions overnight without adding heat or steam. You can also layer a flat book on top for added weight. It's a quick fix for mild puckering caused by overstretching. Rotate hoop positions while working to minimize distortion in the first place. Always release your hoop after stitching sessions to prevent lasting marks. Wash hands before stitching project. Clean hands protect your fabric and thread from oils, sweat, and grime. Even slight residue can stain lighter cloth or dull thread vibrancy. Washing with mild soap and drying thoroughly ensures your project stays crisp and bright from beginning to end. Keep a small hand towel nearby in case of accidental smudges or damp fingers. This simple habit makes a big difference on heirloom pieces or large-scale samplers. Use unscented soap to avoid residue. Avoid hand lotions right before stitching since they may leave marks or attract dust. Keep wet wipes nearby as a quick backup solution. Ensure all crosses face same direction. Consistency in stitch direction creates a polished, professional finish that's immediately noticeable in finished cross-stitch projects. Always decide early whether your top stitch will go from bottom left to top right or the opposite, and stick with it throughout. Inconsistency can disrupt shading and texture, especially in large color blocks. Stitching with the same orientation helps reflect light evenly and enhances the design's clarity. Review your progress every few rows to check alignment. Use highlighters on your pattern to track what direction is done. Practice maintaining rhythm to avoid drifting angles as you stitch over hours. Turn Q-snap clasp to tuck ends. Keep extra fabric tucked neatly by rotating your Q-snap clasp over the folded edge. This reduces distractions, keeps your work area clean, and prevents fabric from shifting during stitching. It's especially helpful on larger pieces where excess cloth can flop around. Adjust folds as needed to avoid deep creases. Pair this method with a grime guard for even better fabric protection. Always double-check fabric tension after repositioning so your stitches stay even and straight throughout your project without warping or distortion. Use water-soluble marker to mark squares. Gridding your fabric with a water-soluble marker helps avoid miscounts and speeds up stitching. Mark light lines every 10 squares to mirror your pattern. Always test the pen on scrap Aida to avoid stains. Use a fine tip for accuracy, especially on high-count cloth. Avoid ironing the marks, as heat can set them permanently. Rinse finished pieces in cool water to remove the grid. Reapply as needed during longer projects to keep your guide visible. Combine with pattern highlighters for double-layered accuracy. Pick patterns you'll enjoy stitching. Choosing the right pattern can completely change your stitching experience. Go for designs that spark joy, something beautiful, funny, or nostalgic. Grandma used to say stitching should feel like a gift, not a chore, and she was right. Avoid overly complex color blends if you're just starting out. A simple, inspiring subject keeps you motivated. Look for charts with clear symbols and manageable floss changes. If a design excites you, you're more likely to finish it. Love your pattern, and the process will always feel worthwhile. Store floss in flyaway floss bags. Clear zipper bags make floss organization easy and accessible. Store each color in its own labeled bag and keep them together with a binder ring or inside a small box. This system protects threads from dust, tangles, and pet hair. It's a great solution for both home and travel stitching. Avoid stuffing bags too tightly to prevent creasing. Sort by number or color group for faster access. A printed inventory list can help you track what's in stock, making project prep easier and shopping more efficient. Use bobbins or cards for floss. Bobbins or floss cards reduce mess and make thread management simple. Wind floss gently to avoid stretching or fraying. Label each bobbin with its number using a fine tip marker or pre-made stickers. Store bobbins in a divided container or thread box, sorted by number or color. This setup saves time during stitching and helps you quickly locate what you need. Don't overwind. Floss should lie flat and smooth, Pre-win colors before beginning a new pattern so you can jump right into stitching without sorting first. Cut floss to 16 to 18 inches. Did you know that floss longer than 18 inches is more likely to tangle, fray, and cause uneven stitches? Cutting it to 16 to 18 inches keeps it manageable and easier to control. Shorter strands create smoother, more uniform stitching and reduce waste. If you're using multiple strands, separate them before threading for better coverage. Gently pull each strand to prevent knots. Win leftover floss on labeled bobbins for reuse. Keeping threads organized helps reduce time spent hunting for matching shades in larger projects or detailed designs. Straighten floss by dampening. Floss kinks and bends can distort your stitches, but you can fix that by lightly misting the thread and pulling it between your fingers. A warm cloth press works too. This technique makes your floss lie flatter and prevents twisting while stitching. It's particularly helpful for metallics and long stitches. Always let dampened floss dry before use to avoid puckering. Separate strands after straightening for better lay. Keep a spray bottle handy, but don't overwet. Just a touch of moisture is all you need to make a big difference. Don't leave project in hoop when idle. Leaving your work in a hoop too long causes creases and weakens fabric tension. Remove it after each session and store the piece flat or gently rolled. This simple habit protects stitches and keeps your fabric looking fresh. Constant pressure can leave permanent impressions, especially on delicate weaves. Wrap your inner hoop with bias tape to reduce marks. If using Q-snaps, consider a grime guard. These tricks extend fabric life and help your finished project look its best. Keep a clean bag nearby for storing your hoop-free projects between stitching sessions. Use correct needle size per thread count. Matching your needle to the fabric and floss makes stitching easier and cleaner. Large needles stretch holes or fray floss, while too small ones cause resistance. For 14 count Aida, try size 24. For 18 count, use size 26. Tapestry needles with blunt ends glide through fabric without piercing threads. When using more than 2 strands, consider bumping up the size slightly. Keep needles sorted in a case or labeled container. Having multiple sizes handy helps you adjust based on fabric and floss type. Smooth stitching starts with using the correct tools for the job. Add extra fabric border around design. Before starting, leave a 2 to 3 inch border of blank fabric on all sides of your project. This extra space is essential for hooping, framing, or finishing the edges. It prevents stitches from running too close to the edge and allows for easier handling. Use a water-soluble pen to outline your design area. For a cleaner edge, zigzag or serge the border. Roll rather than fold fabric to keep the borders smooth. This planning step helps avoid last-minute headaches when it's time to frame or hem your finished piece. Use multiple needles threaded for colors. Pre-threading several needles with different floss colors makes stitching faster and more efficient. Instead of re-threading constantly, switch between pre-loaded needles as needed. Use a magnetic strip or labeled pincushion to organize them by color or symbol. This tip works best on color-heavy charts or confetti areas. Be sure to use the correct needle size for each floss count. It's also helpful to thread similar shades in advance. When not stitching, store the extra threaded needles in a fabric case to keep floss from tangling or catching on anything. Finish edges to prevent fraying. Unfinished fabric edges can unravel with handling, especially during long-term projects. Use pinking shears, zigzag stitch, or fabric glue to seal them. This protects the integrity of your work and prevents loose threads from snagging floss. Even tape can work in a pinch. Secure edges before mounting in a hoop or frame. Well-finished edges also reduce lint. If you're planning to frame later, finishing early saves time. Always inspect fabric corners, as those tend to wear fastest during repeated hooping or rolling while stitching. Press or iron fabric before stitching. Starting with a smooth, wrinkle-free fabric ensures even tension and accurate stitches. Lightly press your fabric on the reverse side using low heat and no steam. Avoid ironing over folds that could stretch the weave. If fabric is delicate, place a thin cloth between the iron and material. Always iron before marking grids or centering your pattern. Press again after completing your project, avoiding any raised stitches. A well-pressed piece looks neater from start to finish. Make this a regular habit in your stitching routine. Fold fabric to find center. Finding the exact center of your fabric helps align your pattern and avoid running out of space. Simply fold the fabric in half horizontally, then vertically, and mark the intersection. This method is essential for symmetrical or full coverage designs. Mark the center with a removable dot using a water-soluble pen or a single basting stitch. Working from the center reduces counting errors and ensures balance. Use this trick even when your pattern starts off-center. Just calculate offset from the middle for better planning and layout. Use light cloth under dark fabric. Working on dark fabric can strain your eyes, but placing a white cloth or paper beneath it helps illuminate holes. This contrast makes it easier to see where your needle should go. A well-lit workspace improves this trick even more, especially with a daylight bulb. Consider using a light box or stitching over a white towel on your lap. Reducing eye strain allows for longer sessions and cleaner work. Combine with magnifiers if necessary. Always store dark fabrics covered to prevent dust from making them appear dull. Travel pre-cut thread lengths. When stitching on the go, pre-cutting thread lengths helps you stay organized and efficient. Measure and separate strands before packing. Then store them in labeled envelopes, bobbins, or floss cards. This saves time and prevents mess while traveling. Choose lengths between 16 to 18 inches to avoid tangling in transit. Include a small threader, scissors, and needle case in your kit. Keep everything in a pouch or resealable bag. With your threads ready, you'll spend more time stitching and less time preparing when you're on the move. Use highlighter on chart as you go. Marking your cross-stitch chart with a highlighter helps you keep track of completed stitches. Use different colors to differentiate between sections or days. This visual progress reduces counting mistakes and improves motivation. Highlight rows after stitching, not before, in case plans change. Opt for erasable highlighters or make photocopies of your chart to preserve the original. This method works especially well with complex or full coverage designs. Combine with a magnetic board and pattern keeper for even better control. Keep your chart in a sleeve to prevent smudging. Secure floss ends by weaving under stitches. Instead of knotting, weave the floss tail under several existing stitches on the back side. This method keeps the fabric smooth and avoids bulk. It's especially helpful for pieces that will be framed or displayed without a backing. Use your needle to gently tuck the tail along the same color path for invisibility. For extra security, weave back in the opposite direction once. This creates a friction lock without knots. Always leave at least an inch of tail to give yourself enough room to work cleanly. Stitch in blocks to reduce thread travel. Working in color blocks rather than jumping around the pattern reduces visible thread carry on the back. This makes your project neater and conserves floss. Map out a 10 by 10 stitch area and focus on one color at a time. Finish that color before switching or moving to a new section. Avoid long thread spans across unstitched areas, which may show through light fabric. Stitching in blocks also helps catch pattern errors early. Track progress on a printed or digital chart to keep everything aligned properly. Use a floss shuttle or organizer. A floss shuttle or thread organizer keeps strands separated and tangle-free. It's perfect for managing multiple colors in detailed projects. Store pre-cut links on individual cards, labeled and slotted by symbol or number. This method helps prevent knots and saves time mid-stitch. Wind floss loosely to avoid creases. Choose organizers with snap closures or zip pouches for portability. For larger projects, use a ring-bound set so you can easily flip through colors. Keep a thread conditioner nearby in your kit to keep floss smooth while stitching. Substitute colors by value and not hue. When you're short on the exact thread color, match by how dark or light it looks, not by the shade itself. In traditional cross-stitch, needleworkers often used whatever they had on hand, focusing on tone rather than precise hue. A pale green can stand in for a pale blue if the brightness is right, preserving the design's contrast and depth. The eye sees light and shadow before it registers color. Hold possible substitutes side by side with the original to compare tone. Choose the one that best mirrors the lightness, even if the color differs. Use milliner's needle for French knots. Did you know that milliner's needles have a uniform shaft that makes French knots easier to form and slide off cleanly? Unlike embroidery needles with an eye wider than the shaft, milliner's needles create more consistent, tight knots. They're ideal for dense knotwork or dimensional details. Use a short floss length and keep even tension while wrapping the thread. Anchor the needle close to the entry hole for a neat finish. Store milliner's needles separately to prevent confusion with regular stitching needles. Backtrack on missed stitches early. Fixing mistakes right away prevents bigger issues later. When you spot a miscount or off stitch, rip it out before adding more layers on top. Use a blunt-tipped needle or a small seam ripper to remove thread carefully. Don't pull hard. Ease each loop out gently to avoid warping fabric. Track your pattern with highlighters or digital apps to catch errors sooner. If the error is minor and invisible, you may decide to leave it. Keep scrap thread handy in case you need to redo a color section quickly. Use light to spot skipped holes. Holding your project up to a light source reveals missed stitches and uneven coverage. This trick helps especially on dark or dense patterns, where small gaps are easy to overlook. Use a daylight lamp or window light from behind to catch irregularities early. Fixing skipped holes right away prevents having to backtrack later. Keep a small flashlight in your stitching kit if natural light isn't available. Double check after each major section. Use this light check method before washing or finishing to ensure everything is complete. Thread many needles at once. Pre-threading several needles with your main colors saves time and reduces wear on floss. It's especially useful when working on detailed patterns with frequent color changes. Keep the threaded needles organized using a felt strip, cork, or magnetic strip to avoid tangling. Choose needles with the appropriate eye size for your floss thickness. Having multiple needles ready also reduces fraying from repeated threading. This method speeds up your workflow during long sessions. Rotate through the pre-threaded needles as needed to stay efficient and focused throughout your stitching process. Use even tension and avoid pulling tight or loose. Maintaining consistent tension ensures your stitches lay flat and look uniform. Pulling too tightly puckers the fabric, while loose stitches look sloppy and catch easily. Practice steady, even hand movements, and check the back for bunching. Rest your hands often to prevent fatigue that affects control. Make test stitches on a scrap before starting new sections. This habit improves overall stitch quality and prevents warping. Use a hoop or frame to help maintain consistent tension. A light tug, not a pull, is enough for well-set, balanced cross stitches every time. Don't skimp on fabric size. Always allow generous margins when cutting fabric for a new project. Grandma always said leaving at least 3 inches on each side makes framing, hooping, and finishing easier. A snug fit may seem efficient, but it limits your options for finishing later. Extra fabric also protects stitches from edge fray and hoop wear. If unsure about your fabric size, overestimate and trim later. This helps even more when stitching large pieces or ones that will be professionally framed. Mark your margins lightly with pencil or erasable pen to plan placement better. Straighten floss before reassembling strands. Separating and then recombining embroidery strands helps reduce tangles and improves coverage, but straightening them first is key. Gently run the strand between your fingers or over a damp sponge to relax the fibers. This process prevents kinks when stitching and keeps the floss lying smoothly on fabric. Always separate strands individually and lay them flat before combining. Recombine by aligning ends carefully and smoothing them before threading the needle. Store pre-separated strands loosely wound on bobbins to prevent curling. Straight floss leads to smoother, more polished results in your final piece. For variegated floss, complete one stitch at a time. Unlike regular thread, variegated floss changes color gradually, so completing each cross before moving to the next preserves the intended shading. This method lets the color shifts show naturally rather than blending unevenly across rows. Use shorter floss lengths to keep the transitions crisp. Avoid carrying thread across the back, which might break up the flow. Follow the design's direction, but prioritize the floss's gradient. Try stitching from light to dark for extra visual effect. Keep note of where each shade lands if you're matching symmetrical sections or mirrored motifs.